Let's move up front so I can introduce, you can put your stuff up.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is Linda Brzezinski. She is a chemistry professor here at MJC. How many of you here are her students? Okay, wonderful. She started out part-time in 2004, but she has been full-time since 2016. She got her bachelor's degree in chemistry from Fairfield University in Connecticut. Her PhD is in organic chemistry from UC Berkeley. She spent 5 years working in the biotech industry before leaving the Bay Area to come here to start her family here in the Valley. And she is a chemistry professor. She's not an astronomy professor. So she had took astronomy here as a student from Professor Dan Chase, and she took the lab from Professor Ken Michael. Astronomy is a hobby for her, but not a specialty, but she's quite knowledgeable about it. She volunteers at the Great Valley Museum Planetarium and at the Great Valley Museum Friday Night Science that I just talked about. And she has a special place in her heart for eclipses, as do I. So I will now turn this over to her.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks for that introduction. I mirrored the screens because I wanted to try to call up some cool websites. So let me see if I can find my PowerPoint here. All right, let's see. Let's get this guy started here. Okay. All right, we need the very first slide. Why are we on slide 6? I don't know. Okay. So I'm going to try to show you some of these websites. They're pretty cool. They're probably cooler than my PowerPoint presentation here. Like I said, I'm a astronomy aficionado by hobby. So sometimes I spend more time observing, sometimes less, depending on how my life is going. I do think eclipses are pretty cool. There are a lot of cool resources out there. If you haven't checked them out, you should definitely check them out. You'll find a lot of interesting stuff up there. The greatamericaneclipse.com, I'll show you their website. They have like a little flyover so you can be the moon taking place in the, flying over the Earth for the eclipse. Timeanddate.com I really like. It has a lot of astronomical information if you want to know what time is Venus rising tonight, what's in the sky tonight, what planets are in the sky tonight. And they do have a lot of stuff about eclipses as well. And so we have, and then NASA has a site on eclipses, just all kinds of cool stuff that that you can see for resources. So I saw some people taking photos of that. I'll revisit this at the end too. Maybe I'll leave this up during question times too. So if you want to take a look at it, you can. All right, then I made a little outline for myself so I could try to keep on track. We'll talk a little bit about eclipses in general, what it is. I think probably most people have an appreciation, but we'll review to see what kind of things they are. Then when do they happen? Why do they happen? Some people just don't keep track, and then they just all of a sudden hear on the news, oh, is there eclipse today? What? How do we know? So just figure out how often they happen. When do they happen in Modesto? What's happening here in this area for the 2024 eclipse? If I wanted to go see something more, where would I go for a totality in 2024? What is totality? Why should I go to the totality path versus sticking around here in Modesto? And then maybe looking back, and I saw some people were in the, have gone to see the 2017 eclipse. I did give a talk like this back before 2017. At that time, I had never seen a total eclipse. I did go and see the 2017 total eclipse, so I could tell you what I did and what it was like. And then looking ahead to 2024, what it's going to be like, how is it going to be different from 2017? How is it going to be the same? And then maybe beyond that in the future. In case you're going to be slow to get on the eclipse bandwagon, maybe you'll see a future eclipse rather than the one that's happening in, what's the countdown, 1 month and 2 days? Got 1 month and 2 days or something. Okay, so what is an eclipse? We have two main types. We can have the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse. So in a lunar eclipse, the yellow thing up there is the sun, by the way. That's probably pretty obvious, right? So just kind of see if I can get my cursor up here. I usually use this tablet. All right. So we got the sun over here. We got the yellow thing is the sun. The larger blue dot is the Earth, and then the kind of gray small dot is the moon. So it's not this close. The distances are not to scale. Okay, so they're pretty far apart from each other. But I just wanted to fit them on the slide as a cartoon. So little disclaimer there. But so we have the sun shining, and it's hitting the Earth. And then if the moon is in back of the Earth, then no light is going to shine on the moon, and we won't be able to see the moon, and that's a lunar eclipse. The moon has become invisible to us, or mostly invisible. A solar eclipse is when we are sitting on the Earth and the moon gets in our way of the sunlight, and so we can't see the sun, or we can't see all of the sun. Okay, so that's a solar eclipse. So the sun is being blocked during a solar eclipse. From our point of view, the moon is being blocked during a lunar eclipse. So we have that. And then if I just click on this, will this go? All right. So let's go back actually. So we probably are aware, hopefully, here's my cursor again, that the moon goes around the Earth, right? How often does it take for the moon to get around the Earth? About a month, right? That's where we get that word, a month, about 28 days, right? Every month, the moon goes around the Earth. So we have like the moon over here on the far side, and then 2 weeks later, it should be over here between the sun and the Earth. And then 2 weeks later, it should be back to this. It's on the far side. So why don't we see these eclipses every 2 weeks, right? So when the moon is on the opposite, we usually see it pretty well. That's the full moon, right? All the sun is shining on the moon. So why is that? Most of the time, the shadows don't really line up. So here we have the sun kind of coming from, let's see, this side of the page. So if this side of the page is the sun is shining this way, it hits the moon, and the moon is casting a shadow, and the shadow is missing the Earth. Okay, so this is the new moon. We don't see the moon lit up very well because the lit up side is facing away from us. So it's called the new moon. Plus it's during the daytime, so we don't really see the moon very much. This is the new moon, but the shadow is not falling on the Earth. So that would be in this situation where it's a new moon, the unlit side of the moon is towards us, the lit side is pointing away from us, but the shadow is not hitting the Earth. It's hitting below the Earth or maybe above the Earth. Same kind of thing when the moon is on the opposite side of us. It's usually not right behind us. It's usually a little bit too high. The orbit of the moon is tilted by about 5 degrees. And so the moon is a little bit too high. And so the sunlight, I keep losing my cursor. Sorry. I have to hover without touching. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So we have the moon being a little bit too high. And so all of the sunlight hits the moon and we see a full moon. We see the moon completely lit up. And the Earth's shadow is not blocking the moon. Okay, because the Earth's shadow is pointing this way and the moon is up here. And so a lot of times we don't see any eclipses. They don't happen every month. Otherwise, we would get 2 eclipses every month. A lunar, 2 weeks later a solar, 2 weeks later a lunar. That would be kind of fun, but then we wouldn't think they were so special maybe. Okay. So here is a little bit of an expanded picture of what this is. This is from timeanddate.com. So again, one of those cool resources. So we have the orbit of the moon around the Earth is tilted relative to the orbit of the Earth around the sun. So when it's this way, we have the moon too high or too low to be able to see an eclipse. When it's over here, we have the moon too high or too low to see an eclipse. When it's over here at what's called the node, so the orbit is still tilted, but the way the sun is shining, it's shining on this side where the moon lines up with the Earth. So we can have an eclipse. If the moon is in between, we have a solar eclipse. If the moon is on the other side, we have a lunar eclipse. So we have that line up about twice a year. So let's see, got some stats here. Every 173.3 days, we have one of these nodes where the moon is lined up with the sun. And it is lined up for about 35 days. So we have about twice a year when we can have a lunar eclipse followed by a solar eclipse, followed by a lunar eclipse again, depending, like we got the cycle of 28. So you could have 2 solars and a lunar, or you could have 2 lunars and a solar during that 35-day period. So then there's another cool piece of information here that there's a Saros cycle. So every 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours, similar eclipse will occur. So it'll be a similar time of the year. It'll be a similar type of pathway along the Earth. So, these eclipse patterns tend to repeat themselves. All right. So there's different types of eclipses. If you look up in timeanddate.com about the different types of eclipses, you can have partial solar eclipses. Again, talking about solar eclipses, I guess. So there's solar and lunar, but then within solar, you can have a partial, you can have a total, or you can have what's called an annular. So sometimes they're not completely lined up. And so it's just passing over part of the sun. The moon is blocking out part of the sun's light, and that's a partial eclipse. Then if it's lined up perfectly on that node, it will pass directly in front of the sun. But then you could have a choice. You might have a total eclipse like this, or you might have what's called an annular eclipse, a ring of light around the moon. So that's kind of weird. Why? How do we know? Is the moon going to completely block the sun, or is the moon going to block the sun except for a ring? Why would those two be different? And that's because there's a variation in this apparent size of the moon and the sun. The orbit of the Earth around the sun is not completely circular. And the orbit of the moon around the Earth is not completely circular. Sometimes it's a little further away, sometimes it's a little closer. Not a ton, but a little bit, enough. So we have the sun varying by about 3%. The size of the sun varies in our sky by about 3%. When we're further away, it looks a little smaller. When we're closer, it looks a little bigger by just a little bit. The moon varies a little bit more. It varies by 12%. So sometimes it's 12% bigger, sometimes it's 12%, like the two different sizes are about 12% different from each other. So if we take the smallest moon, it's not enough to block out the whole sun. We get that annular eclipse. If we happen to be a little bit closer to the moon and we have a bigger moon in our sky, it will block out the whole sun and we'll have a total eclipse. So sometimes we'll have a total solar eclipse, sometimes we'll have an annular solar eclipse. Does that make sense? So kind of like differences in size. I mean, the actual size in reality is that the sun is about 400 times bigger than the moon, but it's also 400 times further away, which is a crazy, some people call it a coincidence. That is just amazing that the moon is just about the right distance that, like if it were a lot smaller, if it were a lot larger, then these things wouldn't be as rare and special as they are. You just got to think about that. It kind of blows your mind that the moon, it's 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's also 400 times closer so that we can see, this is how on the edge it is, that sometimes we see the whole sun blocked and sometimes we don't. And that's that little variation that we were talking about there. So I think that is just crazy. Okay. So we don't see them every month, obviously, and they happen twice a year, but I don't hear about them twice a year. What's going on? So some eclipses are annular, some are partial. So the total solar eclipses versus annular solar eclipses, about 27% of solar eclipses are total eclipses. So we're already talking about something that only happens, every like 2.4 times a year or something. So, and a quarter of that, they're total eclipses. And then if you think about the moon blocking the sunlight, the moon's shadow is just going to fall on a small part of the Earth. So even though the total eclipse might be happening, if you are not right under the shadow, if you're north or south or east or west of where the shadow is, you're not going to see a total eclipse. You'll probably see a partial. And so I've seen this little statistic here that one spot on Earth can expect to see a total eclipse once every 375 years. So if you're not willing to go and search out a total solar eclipse, you've got to really be healthy and live a long time. That's my take home, I guess. I don't know. If you're just not going to move, and then if you're not going to move, you're not going to be as healthy, right? So I don't know. Your odds are kind of low here. I'm sorry, but that's my lesson here. Okay, so the continental United States, it's kind of interesting if you think about the history of it. The 30s, we had an eclipse drought here in the continental United States, followed by an eclipse deluge, is what they say. So the 37 years between 1979 and 2016, there were 0 total eclipses that you could see from anywhere in the continental United States. There was a little bit in Hawaii in 1991. Sometimes Alaska gets the edge of one up in the tundra. Sometimes they'll see one up there, but it's talking about the 48 continental United States. They had 0. There was none on those 37 years. Then the 35 years between 2017 and 2052 have 5 total eclipses that can be seen from different spots in the United States. So this is not an evenly spaced every 2.5 years. I mean, they're different, they come and go. So we're in a cycle right now. 2017, everybody was so excited because it had been 37 years since we had seen one. And now we're kind of in the middle of this deluge. California, the last time California, anywhere in California state experienced totality was 1930. And the next time is going to be 2045. So if you did go and see the 2017 eclipse, or if you've gone to see any eclipse and you were born after 1930, which I'm thinking most people were, and then you probably went outside of California. And if you want to just stick around in California, you're going to have to wait another 21 years till 2045. Okay. So here we have a globe showing the paths of totality for some of these eclipses. And you can see that California is not really, these are from 2021 to 2030. You can get different globe pictures from like 2010 to 2020, 2030 to 2040. So there's some of these resources that you can find. This is from the Great American Eclipse. So you can get these different globes and see where these pathways are. So got my cursor here at all? Okay, here. So here's the one that's coming. Here was the one in October. October was not, how many people looked for it in October? People looking for the eclipse in October? Not that many. So there was one in October. It was a fairly cloudy morning. There was patchy cloudiness, and it was not a total eclipse. The people who were in this pathway, this yellow line, did not see a total eclipse. They saw an annular eclipse if they were in this line from Oregon, kind of going down through Texas. They saw that ring around the sun. I've seen one of those too, and it is pretty cool. So I saw the one in 2012. I saw the annular eclipse in 2012. You could see it from Tahoe. So I went up to Tahoe for 2012. But 2024, the one that's coming up, it's coming up through Mexico, and it's kind of going up and then over the East Coast, upstate New York, and then up through the edge of Canada over there. That's where that pathway is. So if you don't see that one, there's a couple more coming up. 2026, there's, you can go to Spain. You want a trip to Spain? Let me see. I cannot find my cursor. I'm sorry. I should have brought a pointer. Okay, so we got 2026 coming up over here, 2028. So people in Spain are going to be seeing quite a few. So if you want a trip to Spain, coming up August 2026, sounds pretty nice. So, you can go to Africa if you want to, 2027. So there's some other ones coming up. They just aren't going to be in the California or in the United States in general in the next 10 years or something. Well, we got one in 2028 down in South America. So they have cruises that can go. They have one that's going up here, I think it's going for the 2026 one. It's going like a cruise up to the ocean up near Greenland. But they're selling spots right now, but it's like $19,000. It's 12 days on a cruise up there. I don't know. I'm not going on that, but options. There's options. I don't know. Okay, so what magnitude of eclipse is there? So we're not going to see the whole eclipse here, but you might see different magnitudes when you're talking about solar eclipses, and that is the percent or the fraction of the diameter of the sun that's being covered. So here we have a partial eclipse, and if you look, about the midpoint of the sun is covered. So the diameter, half the diameter is being covered. But if you'll notice, it's not a square. The moon's not a square, so it's rounded. So when half the diameter is covered, then the area, only about 39% of the area is being covered. And so, so at 0.9, this is 90% of the diameter is being covered, probably in the 80s as far as the area is going. So for a total, it's, greater than the whole diameter is being covered. So that's the magnitude. Just a little note about lunar eclipses, since this was on the same picture. There's two types of lunar eclipses because the sun is so big that, have you ever been in back of, have two sources of light in back of you, casting two shadows, one of your shadows going this way and one of your shadows going that way? And maybe in the very middle, like where your feet are touching the floor, your shadow is really dark because both lights are being blocked. That's kind of how it looks for a lunar eclipse as well. You got light coming from one edge of the sun and from the other edge of the sun. And so you have a dark spot where all the light's being blocked, and then you have lighter spots where not all the light is being blocked. So you have this lighter shadow and you have this darker shadow. But a lunar eclipse, if just the lighter shadow is over the moon, it doesn't really look like much at all. It's not very impressive at all. So if you're going to look at a lunar eclipse, you want to get that darker spot. Even if it's a partial, that's okay, but you want to have at least some of the darker shadow over the moon. And then it looks kind of cool and red. You can still, it's not like you can't find the moon in the sky. You can, have anyone ever seen a lunar eclipse? People have seen a lunar eclipse? Some people haven't seen any. You got to keep track of these things. Got to look at them. So yeah, it's cool. It looks like all red and weird. You can find the moon. It's not like, oh, where's the moon? Oh, you know, like you can still find it, but it's really weird and red and dark and stuff. And so definitely recommend that you should check out where there's going to be a lunar eclipse. I'll show you that time and date website. You can find out where to look for one. You know what else I should show you? Hang on a second. Let me see. Can I do this? This is all, let's do this. All right, that's still up there. Okay, so I want to get this website up here because I found this today. It was pretty cool. I don't know. Let's see if I can do this. No. All right, maybe I should just mirror these things again. Hang on a second. I'm going to mirror these things. I'm going to mirror the display so that I can. All right, sorry. So now you can see what I can see. All right. This is a cool little math site that I found where you can figure out, so the magnitude and the obscuration. The magnitude is the diameter and the obscuration is the area. So that's, and you can move the moon. So you move the moon. So if you get it halfway on the diameter, then the obscuration is 39%. So let's get it 90%. So if it's 90% of magnitude, 90, come on, 90, almost, only 90, well, if it's 91% magnitude, then the obscuration is 88.5%. So you can kind of play with the area versus the diameter. Again, because it's round, it's not going to chop off that much of the area. Both of them are round, so you can use this to help you with the geometry. I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so what's going to be going on here in Modesto? It's going to be April 8th. It's a Monday, 2024. It's going to be in the morning, about 11 in the morning. So depending on your schedule, you might be able to go. It looks like it's going to be a little bit less than half of the diameter. So probably about 30% coverage of the area of the sun. So it's not going to be total here in Modesto. It's going to be, here's the start, the very start, the kiss of the very edge of the moon's shadow is going to come at 10:14. 11:14 is going to be the maximum. And then by 12:20, it's going to be completely gone. So during that hour, plus or minus, an hour of 11:14, you'll be able to see a little bit of the moon's blocking the sun's light in Modesto. Okay. So in comparison to the one last October in 2023 and the one in 2017 in Modesto, there was a lot more blockage here in Modesto of the sun. So 2023, the one in October, we did see a bunch of the light being blocked. It was very cloudy though. We only saw like whenever the clouds would pass, we would see a little bit of the sun being blocked, and then the clouds would come again. So there's weather is an issue. Because if the clouds come in front of the sun, you're not going to be able to see this type of stuff. So there was more coverage for both of those eclipses here in Modesto. Why is that? Why were those ones better here in Modesto? So the shadow of the moon is going along this line over here. In 2017, this is where the shadow of the moon went. And so some people went up to Oregon to see the eclipse. There were some people in Indiana seeing it. South Carolina had some. So if you were along this pathway, this yellow line, you could see totality. And the closer you were to the middle of the line, the better it was, because the shadow is round. So if you're right on the edge, it's just going to pass by you. If you're right in the middle, it's going to go over you completely. So the middle of the line was the best place to be. The edge of the line, you just got a few seconds of totality. Then if you were along this line, you didn't get totality, you got 0.9 magnitude, so 90% coverage. This line, you got 80% coverage. So this is where we are over here, about 80% coverage for the 2017, like I showed you on the previous slide. Oops. The one in 2023, again, which was an annular, not a total. This is a close-up of that. It was, again, coming a little bit north of California. The northern edge of California actually got some of the pathway, got to be in some of the pathway there. Just a little bit of the corner there. But again, we were over here around the 80–78% range. So that's about where we were. So we were a little bit far from the path. The 2024 path is different. It's a different path. It's coming up through Mexico and through Texas and going up that way. And so California is pretty far from where the path is traveling. So we're here at about the, here's Fresno, between 30 and 40%. So we're over here in this range. So that's kind of looks like the picture that I showed you on the previous slide. So we're not as close to the path as we were for 2023 or for 2017. So we have that. Looking ahead, if you're willing to wait 21 years, we have the one in 2045 is actually going over California. It is not Modesto. You have to go a little bit north of Sacramento to do that. But if you want to see totality and not leave the state, you can. You just have to wait 21 years. It'll be a summer vacation though, August. That's another consideration. August, more likely to be sunny and clear. So, especially here in California. So, all right, let's see.
Wasn't there a place in somewhere in the center of the United States that getting totality both 2017 and
yeah, I don't have the picture where they cross. So if you kind of imagine it was Indian. I think it was I don't know, it wasn't Indianapolis. It was in Indiana somewhere. There was like I think it was around this area where this is where they both came from, because the other one came from Seattle and went down here to South Carolina. So I think that there's some towns in Indiana that got both of them, the 2017 and the 2024. That's kind of where they both crossed. But that is pretty interesting. I think they built like a Eclipse observatory there because they were going to have two of them crossing. I think there's,
for haven't happened just a few years apart like that.
Yeah.
The odds of that were.
Yeah, no, it's true. Because like in one spot, we're saying average of every 375 years, but some spots on the earth obviously have had to wait 500, 600, 1,000 years, whereas other spots only had to wait 7 years. So it's not an even fair distribution of everything. But yeah, average, the 375 years was average.
That's in southern Illinois, and they're calling it the Eclipse Crossroads.
Yeah.
Two little towns called Maconda and Carbondale.
Yeah, Carbondale, I think, is where they built the Eclipse Observatory there. So I mean, because like you said, it's not very often that happens. So building an observatory is not out of the question if they're going to see 2 eclipses within 7 years. Hopefully they get good weather. That's the thing about that's one of the things about oh shoot, do I have? I don't know. Yeah, let's go ahead to this one over here. So I just wanted to make the point, the weather, because now this eclipse is going to be in April, whereas the 2017 one was in August. So the weather probabilities are not as favorable in April. There's more chance of rain, more chance of cloud cover in April than there is in August. So that's one drawback. I think everywhere along the path, they have like weather predictors and they kind of have like average cloud cover everywhere along the path. And there really isn't anywhere that has better odds than 50%. So yeah, I mean, I think if you maybe in Mexico, I think in the very like if you go down south far enough, I think that they are in the low 40% like cloud cover. So it's more than your odds are better that you're going to get non-cloudy day. But yeah, there might be cloudy days. It's half and half. You just flip a coin. And the totality, by the way, it only lasts like 4 minutes. So some places along that path are going to last for like less, but even in the center of the path, the longest that it's going to last is a little bit over 4 minutes. So cloud passing in front of the sun, 4 minutes. If that 4 minutes, the cloud passes in front of the sun, that's it, sorry, you know, like, so that like all the eclipse chasers are gonna, or like, oh, you know, watch the sky that morning and make sure if you see a bunch of clouds coming in, drive the other direction and stuff. So that like people who are really, really gung-ho about seeing this or might have to do a little bit of jogging and stuff like that. So this does give a little bit better odds, like plus factors, in that there are a lot of cities that are in the pathway. There's a lot of people that live right in the pathway of totality for 2024 versus 2017. So almost triple the amount of people live like, I'm just going to be home and there's going to be a total eclipse. Like there's a ton of people who just live in a spot where there's going to be a total eclipse right over their house. And there's a lot more large cities. There's a lot more highways. So I don't know. I mean, there's going to be maybe some people able to drive if it does look like the clouds are coming in, but I mean, yeah, you and 3 million other people. I mean, you know, so I don't know how, if it's going to make it better or worse.
Well, you mentioned that the total eclipse was the last 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
In 2017 was only 2 minutes.
There were places that it was 4. It's about similar. It's similar. Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, it's a similar distance. The longest that it can possibly be is 7 minutes, but it has not been that long since, I mean, I think 1973, there was one that was in certain spots 7 minutes long, but there's not going to be another one. I think this century, the longest one is going to be like in the upcoming century. I think there's going to be one that's 6 minutes, but this one, there's nowhere where it's going to be 6 minutes for 2024. A little over 4 minutes is the maximum. It gets shorter as you go up towards Canada. So the longest times are going to be in Mexico. So really the longest times, a little bit over 4 minutes for some spots in Mexico, best odds of weather. So if you do have relatives in Mexico and you want, I mean, that might be your better odds weather wise, distance, you know, the length of the thing wise, it's going to drop below 3 minutes up in the Northeast. So even if you're at the best center line up in upstate New York, I think it's 3 minutes something. It's not quite 4 minutes, but in Texas, some places are going to get over 4 minutes in Texas. So yeah. So there are going to be a lot of urban areas and a lot of highways, but then again, there's going to be more people. So there might be more traffic. So little logistics to consider for the 2024 in comparison to the 2017 one. I think there's a lot more press too. My sister-in-law lives in Austin. There's a lot of big cities like Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin. You know, there's a lot of big cities that are in the pathway. I think Rochester, there's a ton of big cities. She lives in Austin. She said they're just going crazy. There's just billboards. Come to our eclipse party. Get married on the eclipse day. Do this on the eclipse, like all this stuff. Like, don't forget special eclipse packages, special eclipse breakfast, special eclipse this. They're just going nuts. You know, so whereas I don't know if they did this for 2017, because I think people like, first of all, like, oh, whatever, I don't know, what's a total eclipse anyway, because it had been so long. And then also there were not as many. I think Nashville, we said Salem was in the past, Salem, Oregon, Nashville, Tennessee was by far the biggest city that was in the pathway in 2017. Now there's like a handful of cities. There's really major cities that are in the pathway. So a lot of people are just going to stumble onto the eclipse or just see commercials for it or whatever. Okay. So all right, I got class that day, I'm not leaving Modesto, what am I going to do? There's lots of ways to enjoy a partial eclipse. So one of the things that's really important is that if you are going to look at the sun, you need to have eye protection. So we have some solar glasses. I'm going to give solar glasses to people who were kind enough to attend my talk, but if you have friends who want more solar glasses, they do sell them in the Great Valley Museum. So just a little plug for the Great Valley Museum. I don't mean to undercut them, but you don't mind, right? I don't know if I give out one to everybody who's here at least. So you already have some. Okay, we'll have some for people who are here. If you look through them, when I give them out, I don't know if I have somebody help give them out. So anyone want to help give out, like pass out some to people? Oh, all right. So that's all right. Well, he's gonna the maps guy or the science cloakum guy's gonna help pass out some. You'll help pass them out. All right. So yeah, you can pass out. If you look through these, you can't see anything. They block 99.999% of light. Okay, so these, you cannot use just sunglasses. You cannot double up sunglasses. When I went to Tahoe to see the annular eclipse, I had these glasses. I had several of them with me because I just have a bunch of these all the time. And so I was walking around Tahoe and, you know, waiting for the solar eclipse with my family, my kids, and we're all looking with these glasses, and everybody's like wondering, like, what are you guys doing? And then they're looking up at the sun, and I kept having to run over them and go, no, use these glasses. Then they're trying to take 2 pairs of sunglasses and look, and I'm like, no, stop. You're going to go blind and it's going to be my fault. Stop it. So I was really freaked out because I don't want anybody to go blind. It's, you know, don't look at the sun, please. And also these glasses too, if you have them and you keep them and you kept yours from 2017, that's fine, but just check them out and make sure there's no little tears or scratches. Because if it's letting a bunch of light through, it could really damage your eye. It's a serious thing. And then, you know, you could really damage burn your retina and everything. And especially if you're looking through a telescope or binoculars, don't do that unless you know what you're doing and you have a good condition, well-fitting filter on that thing, because that's concentrating the light that's coming into that telescope. And so if your filter is not the right kind or is damaged, you're just going to like instantly look into the thing and the light's going to focus and burn your retina. You're going to really have a hard time. So I can't emphasize that enough. Safety with the glasses. So if you look through these glasses at the sun, then you'll see the kind of thing that we've been showing, the cartoon. You'll see a yellow thing with a thing cut out of it. It's really kind of cool. You can look at the sun through them today. They work today. It's just going to be round. Okay. And so you can take a look at them today. You can see, oh, okay. Then it's going to be round. And then just don't get so excited that you're like, oh, and you like take them off and then you're like, ah, you know, so just, you know, the 4-step process. When I do this with kids, I'm like 4 steps, put the glasses on, look up, look down, take the glasses off. So just make sure 4 steps, don't skip step 3. So you could do that, but do check for any scratches or tears. You can use them today. It'll be round. On April 8th, it will be not so round for a portion of the morning. So we have that. If you don't want to look at the sun, looking at the shadows that the sun casts is really pretty cool. So there are plenty of sites online that tell you how to make a pinhole projector, even just punching some hole punches in a dark piece of paper, or having a grate. If you have a colander, like a kitchen colander that has round holes in it, that will work too. What happens here is that the holes become not round. They all become C-shaped, which is really cool. So if you look on the ground and you see leaves leaving little, you know, the light coming through the leaves, all the little spots of light will be crescent shaped instead of round. Also, I saw even during the eclipse in October, some people were just kind of going like this, leaving their fingers together to make like little pinholes out of their finger, and then watching that where that shadow goes on the wall, it'll be lots of little crescent shapes. So that's something that's really fun. And then you're not looking at the sun, you're making a shadow and you're looking at it on the wall. So that's not dangerous to do that. So that would be a really cool thing to do. So if you're enjoying a partial eclipse. So what can you enjoy from using, if you go someplace where it is a total eclipse, you can see these special little phenomena that when the light is just about to be completely blocked, there's a little dot of light. The last side that's going to be blocked, the little dot that's there is very bright, and the rest of it kind of looks like a ring. So it looks like a diamond ring. They call it a diamond ring. Also, there's little mountains on the moon and craters. And you can see the last little line of shadow is not smooth. It's all choppy and blocky. And so it shows up as little dots. And those are called Bailey's beads. So someone who's really into jewelry was, you know, then we got Corona, which is a crown. We've got someone who was really into jewelry who was naming these things, I think. If you are in the path of totality, when the sun is completely blocked, you can actually take off your glasses and look at the sun safely, which is really strange to do because normally it's not very safe at all. So only during that 4 minutes or 2.5 minutes or wherever you are in the path of totality, you can look without the glasses. You can feel the temperature get cooler. It was a kind of a muggy August day when I went to the 2017 eclipse. And then I knew that it was almost time when all of a sudden I felt comfortable again. The temperature started going down again. The shadows looked weird. It almost felt like I was on stage. And, you know, because you had certain sharpness of shadows. Normally you feel like daylight is all around you. This felt like it was a spotlight, like it was only coming from one specific spot. And I felt like I was on stage, like everything looked a little fake and a little like I was in a movie about life rather than life itself. It was really weird. The lighting was really weird. And then nature was really weird. Like all of a sudden the mosquitoes came back, which we thought we were done with because we're spoiled. But I was up in Idaho and they had humidity and they had mosquitoes. And so the mosquitoes woke up again. The crickets woke up again and started chirping. The birds started flying around going, where's my nest? I need to go home. It's nighttime. Apparently bees are very sensitive to eclipses. So watching nature is a really cool part of an eclipse. And then, of course, there's weather and traffic issues, which might be a not so cool part of the eclipse. So I was, let me see, I think we have the path of the 2017 eclipse. I can tell you where I was. Oh, nope, hang on, sorry. I guess I don't. I meant to get a picture of, here we go. I guess this is the best one I have for right now. Unless I call up another one, but I was in Idaho and here's Idaho over here. Over here. Let's see if I can find my, okay, here we go. All right, I can see my cursor a little bit better. So we have Idaho. Boise is right south. I was staying in Boise. It's a little bit south of the path of totality. So then I drove up to a town called Weaver, Idaho. Is it Weaver? And it was like a 2-lane road driving up there. So I got really paranoid that I was going to miss the eclipse. The eclipse like at 11 in the morning. I'm like, what if there's a huge traffic jam? Like this town in Idaho has like 100 times as many people as it usually has. And and all the roads are blocked and I'm stuck in traffic during the eclipse rather than there at the eclipse. So I got really upset about that. So I went and I had reserved a parking spot at this high school. This high school had they was selling slots on its field to stay at, and I had reserved one. And I told my family, no, we're going up the night before. We're going to sleep there. So we slept in the van in this high school football field. So that's what we decided to do. Just I was so paranoid. I was like, I don't want to miss this. So I went and we slept in the van. So the traffic coming home was really getting back to Boise from that small town was really terrible. I mean, at least we didn't miss the eclipse, but yeah, that 2-lane road was completely blocked, and we were there. I don't know. It took like 5 hours to get like from here to here or something like that. It was really crazy, but yeah. Oh, so it's some 2-minute ones. Oh yeah, you're right. It does seem. I thought that it was longer. I thought it was a 4-minute one.
Wow, the view.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. It says like there's no 4-minute one anywhere. It's only like 2-minute ones. So maybe you're right. Maybe it wasn't quite as long as it's going to be this time. Okay, longer eclipse, but higher chance of clouds. I don't know. I don't want to be going and driving anywhere that day though for the 2024. Yeah.
Getting out to where we were staying outside Salem.
Yeah. So so traffic might be an issue if you're going to go. And then again, the weather too, if you are going to go somewhere and you want to make sure that you don't have clouds, you're going to have to maybe drive and plan logistics, watch the weather reports, stuff like that, chase flee from the clouds and because it is only a few minutes, so you could miss it. Although, I mean, I've seen a regular total eclipse, so seeing a total eclipse on a cloudy day, I'm good. I don't know, whatever. It might not be good. It might not be that good. But it would be a different experience if you've already had the one totality. There is someone actually asked me, like, have I seen the Smarter Every Day YouTube on the eclipse? And I saw he had some extra footage, like an hour. I've seen the 20-minute version, but it is pretty cool. He's got some footage and some pictures. I decided I wasn't going to take any pictures during the eclipse. I was just going to enjoy it. So I don't have a lot of pictures for during the eclipse. I wanted to spend that time without the glasses on looking at this. It doesn't get as dark as nighttime. I'll just let you know, but it does get pretty darn dark, like more dark than daytime for sure. It gets to be about twilight. I mean, enough for mosquitoes and crickets to come out. And you can actually look at the sun and it looks really weird, like someone erased it or something. Like put a little sticky on it or something. It is really kind of weird. And it was weird before and after too. So that was pretty cool. I didn't get totally addicted to it. People said like, oh, you're going to get addicted. You're going to have to go on all these cruises that cost $19,000 and you're going to be chasing eclipses to Antarctica. And like, no, it's fine. I haven't gone crazy about it. I do still really like them. My family's just like, well, we've seen one. Like they don't even care anymore. I'm like, yeah, all right, you've seen one, but I mean, wasn't it cool? Don't you want to see it again? You know, I don't know, but these are some pretty good sources of information. Let me escape here. I want to show you, let's see, let's get the, no, I want Great American Eclipse. Let's fly over the total eclipse. Let's be the moon and fly over it. Oh, wait a minute. Why is it not doing it? Why is it not doing it? What if I close it? I don't want to close it because I want to, hang on a second. I'm sorry. Why did I started mirroring? Why does it not mirror? All right. Aren't the display settings on mirror? It says duplicate.
Click it again, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you
All right,
could drag it
maybe
over.
maybe I have to turn off PowerPoint.
That could be the case.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna quit this. I'm gonna turn off PowerPoint and see if this helps. I'm having such trouble with mine.
Maybe drag it over and we could just show it on one side.
Let's turn this one off too. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I guess it's not duplicating the display. I don't know what to tell you, but let's fly over. This is the moon's shadow flying over Mexico. So this is greatamericaneclipse.com. So there's a lot of information. It's not just this, but there's a lot of cool stuff here. So you can see that some of these towns that are on the edge are only going to have the eclipse for a shorter time, whereas the towns that are in the middle are having the eclipse for a longer time. Are there any questions while I'm showing this cool animation, or any questions about the eclipses in general? No. I'll show you timeanddate.com so you can see where to look up how to, it's really user friendly to look up how do I know when to see this lunar eclipse that you told me about. That's cool. I don't even know. I've never heard of this. I've never seen it before. Can I see one of those?
Distance is like the diameter of the moon's shadow when it does that.
That is a great question.
You repeat the question, I guess.
How big the moon's diameter is. I think it's like 5 or 6 miles or something. We could find out. I'm sure we can find out. I mean, you can see that. I mean, it's getting, see, Dallas is in here. You got all of Dallas. You got Fort Worth. So, I mean, it's definitely a significant amount. It probably is at least 15, 20 miles, right? You got to have like, because these are towns that are this far apart from each other.
The answer to your question is 2,159.1 miles.
But that's the actual moon. She's talking about the shadow. As
116 miles.
oh, okay. Oh, yeah, the width. Oh, here, the width of the path. Okay, 116 miles. Yeah, that's more. I was saying like 20 miles. Yeah, I'm way off. It's 115 miles. Oh, and here we have the duration. And then as I think it's kind of the distance of the moon is changing a little bit, and see how the width of the path is also changing a little bit. So it kind of depends on how far the moon is from the Earth, which is slightly changing even during this eclipse pathway. So
That's about 300 miles.
it could be about, well, this one, it looks like it's about 100. It's getting shorter too. It was 116 and now it's down to 112 because I think and then the time of the duration, it was above 4 minutes and now it's only like at 3 minutes. So as it goes across the country, it's getting a little bit further away. The width is getting a little bit less. The duration is getting a little bit less. So as it goes across. Oh, now we're on the Canadian US border here. So we got upstate New York and Canada in here. So we got flying over. All right. That's a good question. Any other questions here while we're flying over? Bird's eye view? I'd like to. It's hard. Unfortunately, we don't get a spring break here at MJC. So yeah, I don't know. And I've already been, so we'll see. We'll have to see. But I don't know. Is anyone else planning to that wants to admit going? Anyone else getting out of here? I don't know. We don't have like I said, here it's Monday, the museum is closed. We don't have a lot of volunteers doing the eclipse that day here. But you got your glasses now, you could do the little pinhole stuff. Hopefully it'll be a nice sunny day here. Let's see a couple other things here. Oh, here's timeanddate.com. If you go to timeanddate.com, there's a lot of cool stuff, clocks, time zones here. If you go under sun, moon, and space, there is stuff about eclipses. There's even a special thing just about the April 2024 total solar eclipse. But if you go to eclipses, it'll talk about different upcoming eclipses. You can search by your location. You could say, okay, well, I'm in Modesto, California, and it'll give you just the ones that you can see from here. The total lunar eclipses are better. The penumbral lunar eclipses are going to be disappointing. So if this is your first time and you get like all excited, oh, I'm going to look up this lunar eclipse, the penumbral ones are not going to be very noticeable, to tell you the truth, unfortunately. But so in September, there's, well, partial lunar eclipse. Next March, there's going to be a total lunar eclipse. So we got the partial solar eclipse in April. We got another partial one here in 2029, so you can see these kinds of things and see what's coming up for you. If you click on it, they have these cool, and they have the picture that I borrowed for the talk. We also have a little animation. It'll show you, this is what happens when it starts. It tells you what time it is too. This is what it looks like at 11, at 11:15, that's the maximum. And then it's going to be going like across the bottom of the disk of the sun. So you can see this for, and you can look up a past eclipse, you can look up a future one, you can look up different, let me see, what do they have? This is where I got some of the maps of, all right, the maps of the eclipse here. Other eclipses worldwide. So these are, you know, you can look up different ones that are coming in the upcoming years. You can look for what year it's in. Oh, this one has like this next decade. I think there's one in 2030. Before. Oh. Yeah, you can look them up by decade and stuff too. Let me see.
That's an interesting path, and
Yeah, they have one that's going to be just in the Midwest in like 2043 or something, before the 2045 one. Let's see what else? That's a Great American Eclipse. We got Eclipse. This is NASA, so we got some information there. Lots of cool videos there. Some live stuff. There's apps that you can get if you are going somewhere. I would definitely look up an app and see where. You know, it'll tell you when the totality is starting, when it's ending, so you know to put your glasses back on. Yeah, the Great Eclipse, I think, is where I got the maps and stuff. Oh yeah, they have different eclipses, 21st century, so 2031 to 2040. No, let's see. 2041 to 2050. Yeah, there's going to be one in 2044, but it's only visible in the Midwest and in parts of Canada. This is the 2045 one. That's kind of the best one. There's one coming up in 2046 that's just going to be in Upper California. So California is going to be kind of a little bit of a hot spot, but it's going to be 20 years from now. So you can look up different ones that are coming up either way, either from the time and date or map-wise from this greatamericaneclipse.com or other sources like that. So I don't know. Any other questions here about the eclipse? No, everybody's got their fill of eclipse. You feel like does everybody feel like maybe a little more curious about going to see one? Like if you just came to the talk thinking like, I don't know, whatever. And then maybe now you've learned about it, looking a little bit more, seeing it. Is there anyone who was here in October coming to or like looking at the eclipse in October? The partial eclipse? Yeah, you were here. I was here at the Great Valley Museum. That was conveniently a nice Saturday morning, so we didn't have to worry about classes and stuff like that.
so actually, I discovered, like, we did not go to the museum, because I discovered most of the people in my neighborhood did not know what eclipse was. So I
Oh,
got glasses from the museum, and we have, we bought donuts, and, we have, stuff in the middle of the street, we live in a cul-de-sac, and Practically the whole neighborhood came out.
You had a party, a neighborhood
To
party.
watch it, and me being a science person, I'm educating them all, and yeah, so it was kind of a cool experience, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. Definitely encourage that if you are able to do that. That's pretty cool. We were doing a similar kind of vibe, similar kind of feel here at the museum. So it was good, yeah. Even people I've sent out glasses to like family at different parts of the country and stuff, and they've you know gotten excited about it and run and knocked on their neighbor's door. Here, you gotta look through these glasses. And I was at the Tahoe that time, just everyone who was passing by watching me being weird. I was giving glasses out to everybody. So I don't know, it's kind of a fun time if it's not a cloudy day, which hopefully it won't be. So yeah, and hopefully, well, maybe when you go outside, and remember the 4-step process, don't skip step 3. Put them on, look up, look down, step 3, very important, then take them off, and then you can maybe get a little bit more excited about the sun in general. So I don't know. But thanks for coming to the talk and learning about it.
Yeah, the whole thing, 2 weeks from now, next